Experts believe artificial intelligence will be used on an unprecedented scale in the 2024 Lok Sabha elections. Now, there's a precedent to it. September last year, generative AI-based political interference upended Slovakia's parliamentary elections 2 days before votes were being counted. An audio clip allegedly featured the voices of a politician and a journalist discussing ways to manipulate the election, triggered an electoral upset. Argentina's November 2023 presidential elections were the world's first where both sides used AI. A few days before the first round of voting, scandalous audio recordings began to circulate widely online. That's just a glimpse of what we could expect in 2024. And the question we're asking today is, can AI play a deciding factor in the 2024 Lok Sabha elections like social media did in 2014? Joining me to discuss this are Dr. Sunil K. Chaudhary, Prashant Mali, and my colleague Krishna Kumar here in the studio. I want to start by asking Dr. Sunil Chaudhary. Dr. Chaudhary, do you believe, given the rate of adoption of AI in elections across the world, we've been seeing the slow drumbeat of deep fakes approaching closer and closer, and soon enough we've had Argentina using AI deep fakes. Do you see this as a big problem for the Lok Sabha elections in 2024?
Sandeep, I would just see that Indian democracy, India's electoral democracy, is not only a very huge and varied democracy, but it's a very diverse democracy as well in terms of electors, as well as the democratic ambience which India has been witnessing for 17 Lok Sabha elections and more than 400 assembly elections. I would say that the 21st century or the elections in the 21st century in the coming years and decades would be the technology-driven elections. When we say that the new elections or the forthcoming elections would be technology-driven, it means artificial intelligence is going to have its impact. How decisive it would be having its impact on the electoral politics in India, it is difficult to say at this point of time. But I would just highlight 3 important points where artificial intelligence is going to have vis-a-vis the electoral politics and more precisely the 2024 Lok Sabha elections. In terms of accessibility, that how the artificial intelligence would be able to make a large number of stakeholders, both the electors and the political players, accessing with each other as a part of electoral campaigns. The second would be connectivity. Artificial intelligence would be able to make its impact felt on connecting as many people, as many voters as possible, as India is going to have more than 97 crore people as the voters.
Right, absolutely.
Thirdly, I think the artificial intelligence would be unfolding new avenues for the voters, for the electors, for the parties, as well as for the administrators, for instance, Election Commission of India as well. So new avenues, new opportunities.
New opportunities. But that's the benign side of it, Dr. Chaudhary. You know, Krishna, we were watching earlier, before the show began, we saw the Karunanidhi deepfake video that was created by one of the studios in Chennai. What's your take on that? How authentic was that Karunanidhi AI video?
Well, for one, it showed a very a relatively young Karunanidhi than the Karunanidhi that we knew, the wheelchair Karunanidhi that we knew for the last decade of his life. So, you know, fact of the matter is that, as you're rightly pointing out, you know, it's happening across the world. It's happening across states within the country now. And of course, we have a big general election coming up in India. And as we speak, Sandeep, you know, you have Italy's Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni, you know, suing a 40-year-old and his 73-year-old father for creating a deep fake pornographic video featuring her. So, and she's, you know,
asking for damages
of around 100,000 euros. So, you know, this is, that's how dangerous it can get. We saw what happened to the deepfake video of an actress, you know, that caused so much furore, and then almost immediately after that, we had one deepfake video of Prime Minister Narendra Modi also emerging. So the threat is as real as it gets, Sandeep. And then, of course, the Karunanidhi issue that you're talking about, you know, if you can resurrect dead politicians to life
Yeah.
and do, and create a narrative around it for the upcoming elections,
Right.
then that opens up another world of pain altogether.
Absolutely. No, and in Tamil Nadu, given the fact that you have these three tall leaders who are no longer on the scene, like you have Karunanidhi, you have
Jayalalitha, and you have
and
MGR.
MGR.
Yes.
So there's interesting, and all three of them from the film world, because so their association with the audiences is very visual.
Absolutely, and also somebody like MGR, whose name can be milked to great effect, be it ADMK or DMK, whichever party you belong to, you can milk the legacy of MGR both ways.
Right.
It is nothing but it's going to be a political minefield for voters to go through.
Some issues that Senthil has raised over here, I want to speak to, ask Prashant Mali these questions. Senthil is saying that if prior permissions are taken from the person or his descendants, it's legal. But he says that there could be an issue of ethics here. Whether it's ethical or not, he's still not very clear on that. Prashant, as a lawyer, what's your take on this? How could this be used? Does a dead person have his family own the rights to his videos? Could they be resurrected? Could they be used to say something that the person probably would never say in his lifetime?
This election is, it's not the fear of live person. This election would be fear of the dead. So this election would be fought against, live person versus the person with legacy.
Right.
So to create this legacy, AI is going to help these political parties milk a lot of votes.
Right.
In Maharashtra also, from where I am right now in Mumbai, Balasaheb Thackeray is another big vote garner.
Absolutely, waiting to be tapped.
So, but coming to the law point, see, copyright exists for the whole life.
Right.
And it passes for 60 years. And from after that, it passes to the legal years.
Right.
But the question here is, if some content is created after his death, the ownership remains a question. Number one. So you can't say that there exists a copyright. So there is a gray area there.
Right.
But saying all this, see, the creator can face two sections of the IT Act 2000.
Right.
One is the identity theft.
Yes.
If the session or the recording somehow amounts to cheating voters.
Right.
Then 66C and 66D, which are for identity theft and for impersonation. So these can be attracted for the people who make it.
Yes.
Intention may be questioned later because this is a complete election festival which is going to happen.
Right.
And in this, if it takes the voters, or it creates some kind of revolution in this voting, which will be definitely created, and I feel it will be created in every state, every constituency, because I see when I'm getting now clients in artificial intelligence, they have got contracts from political parties and even small politicians from paying them from their own pockets.
Right.
And it has become very simple. You have an algorithm what Mr. Senthil had created, ready-made algorithm. You have to just fit in a face and type down the
script.
Speech.
Yes.
So it is so simple, So making these videos is as simple as some karyakarta in some word can make it instantaneously and appeal voters to not to vote, or the voting is cancelled, or bomb sport has happened, whatever. So fake news and artificial intelligence.
Right.
This is the combination is going to be lethal this time.
It's going to be lethal indeed. And thank you, Prashant, for outlining the threat. This is exactly what we're discussing, the lethal combination of fake news and artificial intelligence. But Dr. Chaudhary, how is the Election Commission approaching it? There's so far a silence from the EC. There's mum on the aspect of deepfakes, AI, all of this. Do you think that the EC would actually wait for something like this to unfold before issuing directives? What's your take on this?
No, you see, Election Commission, its recent notification has stated one of the 4 important challenges for conducting elections in India is besides money power, muscle power, and the violation of MCC code, it is called misinformation.
Right.
So both misinformation, I would say, I would also add it to disinformation.
Right.
Seem to be the greatest challenges
right.
for the politics elections for 2024. When I say misinformation, it means that one must have seen the case of, say, the Pakistani electoral politics,
yes.
where how the information actually started circulating on the news which had not been stated by one of the party leaders in Pakistan.
That's correct. Imran Khan's speeches. I mean, Imran Khan was sitting in prison and issuing speeches, which were not spoken by him. Yes.
Right. When we say disinformation, disinformation means how this fake news is impacting the voters across regions. So, Election Commission is very, very, say, vocal and very, very vigorous in terms of containing and controlling both misinformation and disinformation. So, I think the most important part of it is how the electors, how the stakeholders become more accountable and more educated in addressing these issues of misinformation and disinformation.
Right. In fact, Krishna, you remember in 2014 when you had all those holograms of Prime Minister Modi and how zapped we were. That was like a decade ago. But that's like more the benign aspect of, using...
That seems like child's play compared to what's going on right now.
What's coming around the corner,
And you're talking about Imran Khan. All those, speeches had such an impact to the point where PTI won the number of seats it did win in the Pakistan elections.
Yes,
that campaign was actually very successful.
It was a very successful campaign indeed, and it was all on audio recordings of Imran Khan, where people actually thought they were listening to Imran Khan, which they're not. But, going forward, how do you see this playing out? Will the 2029 elections, for instance, have a far bigger challenge than in 2024, given the rate at which generative AI is, catching up? And you've been tracking this very closely.
Right. Even before we get 2029 elections, let's just stick to 2024 one, Sandeep. And you have a platform like Meta that has come out and said that, all, AI and deepfake content will be tagged, political content will be tagged as quote-unquote altered. That's an initiative that they've made, keeping in mind 2024 elections, an announcement coming in, in the nick of time before, India has its elections. But 2024 is election year for the world. 64 countries going to elections across, across the world. So you have Meta taking cognizance of the situation that this is the year in which it's going to be a litmus test with the rise of AI and deepfakes, and it being a major election year. By the end of 2024, and especially with the Indian elections and how the Indian elections go, Sandeep, I think we'll have both problems and solutions coming up simultaneously.
The sheer size of the elector base, it's almost like 1 billion people voting.
Indian elections will be the litmus test.
Will be the litmus test, and in fact, that's what the reports have been saying, that they, they're warning of the potential that India is the #1 country on the disinformation list this year. But I don't know if Buckingham Palace knows about AI. They're still in the Photoshop era. But I want to ask Prashant this. Prashant, what do you think we need to do now to kind of, firewall the Lok Sabha 2024 elections? Like Dr. Chaudhary mentioned that, look, there have been these guidelines, misinformation, AI can be seen as part of misinformation. You've so beautifully put it that the fact that the IT Act could be brought in against these things. But is there anything else you see that the Election Commission needs to do in the days ahead to ensure that somebody doesn't reach for that AI weapon, kept in his smartphone?
So first, starting with this discussion we are going on Meta. See, Meta algorithms could be the litmus test, because ultimately the algorithms have to predict and test that whether this content is politically altered, etc. As I know personally, that Meta is still in very nascent state when it comes to language barrier. India has many languages and many slangs. So if I write it in some out of the 20 principal languages, also if I write something slang, Meta doesn't recognize. So Meta's litmus test, possibly Meta's existence test in India could be tested. Or rather, all algorithmic based apps litmus test is this election. Then what can be done? What can be done is, I feel whenever such kind of apps have been discovered, temporary banning such apps which affect your universal suffrage. That is, your election-related rights. If something is harming, temporary banning. Later it can be started. Then such awakening about such kind of content in vernacular languages is the must.
Right.
Because today normally voters are there in the rural areas,
Yes.
and making them aware about such technologies in their own language is important.
Absolutely.
What is happening is we are doing everything in English, which they don't understand really.
Right.
So, how their faith can be played on, how their old notions about their political leaders can be played on, needs to be told to them explicitly. So this voter awareness program, EC has a lot of budget. So now the budget should go only on this generative AI. And there is one more point, it's called liar's dividend. So the awareness has to be both ways. You cannot have some actual videos and then politicians going and claiming that this was an AI video. So that's called liar's dividend. So they shouldn't also get liar's dividend. So EC should train and make aware people on AI-related, deepfake videos and the liar's dividend, which can come out of taking the plea of, deepfake videos. So when this too is done, I think we would have greater success. But recursive steps and fast learning and fast implementation would be the key this time.
Absolutely. Fast learning, fast implementation. Given the way that technology is picking up, the speed at which it's, literally catching the imagination of users. But you remember, Krishna, a couple of years back, there was a spate of WhatsApp videos that, of children being abducted, and that led to mob lynchings across India. That's one of the reasons that I fear how AI could be, manipulated. You see that as a problem in this?
Right. It's a political problem and it's a social problem.
Yes.
Deep fake, like we were talking about, in fact, deep fake became a headline because of an actress's video, not because of a politician's video. So clearly, deep fakes will cause such serious social harm and social turbulence, as you rightly asking for, it needs to have a regulation. You bring it under the IT Act, create a separate act for it.
You need guardrails.
You need more than guardrails, I'd say. You need stringent laws because they could actually track down the person who created the deepfake of the actress. So once you do that, the kind of punishments you give for those who create these deepfake videos should deter others, and also make social media platforms also responsible in regulating this content, making sure this content is weeded out, and of course find other ways of ensuring that this content doesn't get created in the first place.
Right, absolutely. Dr. Chaudhary, closing comments on this? Prashant has come out with some great suggestions, as has Krishna, but beyond this, is there anything else that needs to be done beyond the purview of the IT Act, what the EC can do, awareness campaigns, very important there, and the need for, truth to put its shoes on quickly before the lie goes across the world?
Just placing on what Election Commission has stated, that the voters have to be very, very conscious, awakened about containing and controlling the fake news. I think what Election Commission has stated, that verify before you amplify. That's the quote which Election Commission comes out.
Absolutely.
And secondly, I think the Election Commission, other regulatory institutions must adopt not only the persuasive technologies, but also preventive and punitive regulations, so that deep fake news and the artificial intelligence role could be controlled and contained. And let me just make it one point very clear, because when elections take place, one could see that most of the national parties and the established state parties may not be resorting to the artificial intelligence in the electoral practices. And just stated in the beginning, because artificial intelligence, the 21st century would be the century of artificial intelligence. So it has both positive and negative connotations and implications. So what we have to nurture, we have to capitalize the positive connotations of artificial intelligence, and the negative ones which may be used by the new stakeholders, new political stakeholders, we have to be vigilant in controlling and containing that.
We have to be vigilant in containing and controlling that, and as Dr. Chaudhary mentioned, the AC's motto is verify before you amplify, and cannot be said enough. When you get something on your phone, dear viewers, make sure you verify it, because you are a consumer and you're also a distributor of the kind of fake news that you will be targeted with in the weeks ahead. AI is an election weapon. Very interesting debate here, and very, very interesting points coming out on the way ahead, what we need to do to guard against this double-edged sword. Thank you very much, Sunil, Dr. Chaudhary. The big IPL Jamboree begins tomorrow in Chennai. Now, a number of roles in the India 11 squad for the T20 World Cup are yet to be decided. The selectors will be looking closely at the form and performance of players like batsman, wicketkeeper Rishabh Pant, Ishan Kishan, opening batsmen Shubman Gill and Yashasvi Jaiswal, bowlers, batsmen, players. But another point of debate is how the IPL is now becoming more attractive than test matches and domestic cricket for certain players. Some players are even prioritizing the league over national duty. So much that the BCCI had to offer monetary incentives for players to turn up for test duty. Now joining me to discuss this today are seasoned cricket commentator and expert Charu Sharma. Charu, welcome to the News9 Plus show.
Thank you so much. Delightful that I can be here and talk cricket.
Thanks. And my colleague Ashish Sharma joins us as well. But Charu, I want to ask you, this issue that the board has raised on some of our players skipping domestic tournaments like the Ranji Trophy in favor of IPL and T20. Well, how does this? Is this a healthy trend for Indian cricket?
Well, listen, one has to admit, what is cricket right now for an individual? Right. Is it a pastime? Is it an amateur, time situation, or is it a profession?
Yes.
Now, for any professional sports person or any profession, any person following any profession, I suppose we have to understand that the profession is the key, that you have to make your livelihood from that sport.
Right.
So we can't now leave them hanging in the middle, in limbo, saying you've got to do this, you've got to do that. And of course, you can earn your living as well. Right. I, as a professional cricketer, will first wish to ensure that I make as much as I can from what is my profession. I'm not an amateur. I'm not somebody who repairs computers for a living and goes and plays cricket. I'm a full-time cricketer, and I need to earn full-time from it. Right. So if a certain area of the sport, say domestic cricket, is not paying me as much as another form of the game, I will choose that other form of the game. So I think it's, we're still caught in India between amateurism and professionalism. And, the sooner we realize that those who are putting their blood, sweat and tears on the ground every single day want maximum remuneration. If that's coming from the IPL, maximum visibility, maximum fame, maximum everything. If that's coming from the IPL or T20 leagues, that's where they will go.
Right, absolutely interesting, important points that you've raised there, Charu. But, one quick question to you again before I bring Ashish into this discussion. The fact that there are several slots open for the India 11 for the T20 World Cup. Do you see the selectors looking at the T20 matches as a kind of a filtration? Will they be looking out for their future players for the T20 squad, you think?
Absolutely, but I disagree a bit. I don't think there are plenty of spots available in the T20 team because it's sort of more or less settled. Right. Eventually, what will decide the T20 team is the fitness of the players. Those who are 100% will make the grade. Those who unfortunately may suffer injuries or are already injured may not make the grade, because there's so many who are on the same level, same pedestal. Who's the fittest of them all, not the best of them all, because they're all equally good, will make the grade in the T20 World Cup.
Absolutely, survival of the fittest. But Ashish, I want to bring you in on this. The point that Charu raised about cricket being it's a professional sport, and the cricketer realizes that he has only so much, so much cricket left in him. How much of an issue is that you see in the Indian cricket score? How much cricket can a cricketer play at the end of the day? Ranji, T20, Test cricket, one day. How do you balance all this out?
See, now we have a few aging cricketers there, and they're doing very well as captains. But for the younger cricketers, this is the holy grail. We've done a story called Ticket to Fame.
Yes.
So this is the vehicle for social mobility for them.
Yes, absolutely.
And when they get these multi-crore contracts.
Right.
And this is the platform where the world is watching. If they do well here, and they do get to do national duty, nothing like it.
Right.
But as Charu pointed out, it's first and foremost making a living.
Yes.
So many of these T20 legends, the IPL legends, they may or may not wear national colors, but they do make a very good living out of it.
Right.
So the old, the gentleman's game where we look at amateurs playing cricket, that's far gone now.
Right.
But there are certain other players who prioritize this over not playing the Ranji Trophy.
Yes.
And the BCCI has penalized some of them, and they said you have to turn up if you're fit.
Yes.
So that's something we need to look at, because that's the nursery of cricket, where, like an old-fashioned person like me would still say, the ultimate form is Test cricket.
Right.
So if you don't have you have more than 50 players who are playing in the IPL who've not played even one Ranji match.
Yes, I mean, so Charu, this point about Ranji, how do you make it more attractive? Like Ashish was saying, 165 T20 players, out of which 56 have never even appeared for a Ranji match. How do you ensure that this nursery of talent, that the Ranji Trophy becomes more, appealing, more attractive for cricketers?
Well, I don't want to give silly examples, but one silly example that comes to mind is the fact that if you haven't done 10 years of your duty as a doctor in the jungles of India, you can't be a doctor in a big hospital. I mean, you don't want to play the Ranji, don't play the Ranji. It's a different game. It's a different four-day red ball game. And if I want to hone my skills as a T20 player, because that's what the pot of gold is, why would I play the Ranji if it's not remunerating me enough? If it's remunerating me enough, fine, I'll play the Ranji as well. I'll play every tournament. And I hope to play the IPL as well. But I will naturally go to where I'm more noticed. And if the Ranji just fails, also you don't want to be injured, because if you're injured during a Ranji game, you can't play the IPL. There goes your season. So we have to understand this whole situation from a player's perspective only. We can't be the authority sitting on top of the players saying that, you've got to do this, you've got to do that, you've got to get up at 4 a.m. and brush your teeth, and then no.
You got to do your national
service.
18. Right. Yes.
But there's no national service here.
Right.
I mean, if you want to play the Ranji, play. If you think it's going to benefit you. If you don't play. If you get a contract in the IPL, play. If you don't get a contract, work harder. But we can't be forcing these criteria on players, saying that you have to do 14 years of wearing only white and 2 days of wearing only slippers. What is all this?
Right. Nanny state, Ashish, as Charu was saying.
But there's this question as well of people complaining of the packed schedule, mental stress going up, then they're taking their time off cricket and not playing, and then the BCCI forcing them to play the Ranji, that you need to turn up for it. So also workload management, if we are so close 2 months before the World Cup, and you need to maybe manage the pace bowlers and their workload. So you have a Shami missing this now. We need a second partner for Bumrah. So they'll be looking at the younger players as well. But workload management, does the IPL schedule of playing this 2 months of matches, is that an ideal preparation going into a World Cup?
Well, if you're asking me, yes, because match practice is what it's all about. You can practice in the nets till the cows come home. It doesn't really guarantee you anything on the ground. Now, the only danger in a sport such as cricket or any other sport which is physical is that you may unfortunately injure yourself and therefore lose a spot in the T20 World Cup because of that, God forbid. But otherwise, what better than to be match fit, than to be playing matches, because there's so much thought goes into it, so much everything else in terms of strategy and tactics and ability in pressure situations, and you pass through all of those difficult tests and then get selected for India, you're obviously in very good shape. Let's not forget that it's a 9-week tournament, but you play basically only 18-20 matches, so you're not playing every day. And yes, it's very intense as a T20 battle, but it's not a whole day. So it's just 4 hours and once in 3 or 4 days. So let's not overvalue the fact that they're playing so much before the T20 World Cup for India.
Right. So Charu Sharma there on the challenges before the Indian cricketers this year as they go into T20 season beginning tomorrow, and the filtration that will be the World Cup just 2 months from now. Thank you very much for joining us with your thoughts this evening, Charu. Thanks very much, and my colleague Ashish Sharma with us here. Ashish, incidentally, has done an excellent story on what T20 means for India's cricketers, the grassroots cricketers, the kind of social mobility that he's spoken of. You can watch in our story, Ticket to Fame. Take a look.
The Indian Premier League is a grand platform for young cricketers to showcase their skills in front of more than 100 million cricket fans. And cricketers over the years have lapped up this opportunity to earn millions and earn their 60 days of fame. Mahendra Singh Dhoni's success story has inspired young boys from small towns and cities to dream big. But before the glamour comes the grind and the struggle to defeat grinding poverty. Here is a quartet of 4 emerging stars who've caught the eye of cricket connoisseurs. It isn't just their cricketing exploits that make their stories remarkable. It is the odds they've overcome on the playground and off it. The IPL gave them a path out of poverty and became their ticket to fame.
After a long lean patch, King Kohli looks in sublime form. Watch excerpts from our story, Batman Returns, on how the master batsman battled against the odd to come out on top.
In a world where cricket is king, one man has risen above the rest. Virat Kohli is the powerhouse of the Indian cricket team. Since 2008, he has been a key member, driving their success through his tremendous batting abilities. Only recently, he made his 500th international test appearance for Team India, a testament to his dedication and passion for the game. Virat Kohli also equaled the legendary Sir Don Bradman's record of 29 test cricket centuries. But it hasn't always been smooth sailing for Virat Kohli. Like all great heroes, he too faced setback. Yet, he proved his resilience, growing stronger with each challenge. Batman Returns is the story of how Indian cricket's knight bounced back from the lowest phase of his life.
Oh, 220 runs in 4 matches at a strike rate of 144.73. The world's highest T20 run getter. 3 half centuries. Till a few weeks ago, Kohli was the loneliest man in the world. Today, he has famously bounced back. He is the toast of world cricket. Is finisher Kohli central to India's march in the ongoing T20 World Cup?
Like the legend is back.
Definitely yes. Virat is one of the best finishers. If you look into, if you go back into the history of Indian cricket, you will find that Dhoni was a very good finisher. But I think Virat takes the cake.
Whatever happens in the World Cup, whether India wins or not, whatever Virat's future, but those 2 sixes changed the course of the World Cup.
And I think a lot of people do get disappointed when Virat will not be in the team.